So, Andrew, did the Second Amendment win this session?
It didn't get fucked.
I'm Duane Urban, and welcome to the Urban Defense Podcast, featuring discussion on firearms, concealed carry, self-defense, the law, and much more. Designed to inform, educate, and increase your survival in a critical incident, with your hosts, Duane Urban and Andrew Saller. Welcome to the Urban Defense Podcast, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2025 Maryland legislative session. There are some bills that aren't advancing, some that are, a few changes, and some stuff we want to talk about. So, Andrew.
For today's civics lesson, once again, we're talking about Crossover Day. Crossover Day this session was on March 17th. In order for a bill to become a law, it has to pass both the Maryland State Senate and the Maryland State House. If the bill has not passed its respective chamber by the 17th, the odds of it making it over in time for the other side to act on it is very slim. So bills, unless it's an emergency bill or has a lot of political juice behind it, that have not passed by Crossover Day on the 17th are probably effectively dead. And we all got to remember, the final day of the session this year is midnight on April 7th.
So before we talk about the bills that are advancing, let's go ahead and talk about some of the ones that didn't. First, though, let's talk about House Bill 1287, which would seek to prevent a person from manufacturing, selling, offering for sale, purchasing, receiving, or transferring a, quote, convertible pistol. Andrew, what is this thing?
This was the anti-Glock bill. This would have prohibited pretty much anyone from bringing a Glock in its current form into the state, transferring ones that are already in the state, selling them, etc. I'm unaware of any other pistol that would be targeted by this specifically. If our viewers are, let us know in the comments. But essentially, once again, it would prohibit a person from manufacturing, selling, offering for sale, purchasing, receiving, or transferring a certain convertible pistol. A convertible pistol is any semi-automatic pistol that can be converted into a machine gun solely by the attachment of a switch or auto sear. So there was a hearing on March 5th, and it has not advanced. It has not passed second or third reading. It has not crossed over. So despite the numerous delegates who sponsored it, it is probably dead.
All right, gone, but probably not forgotten. I would guess we might see this one again.
We'll be hearing about this issue in another video detailing the city of Baltimore's lawsuit against Glock.
All right, so moving along, and this is going to be a bill that received an unfavorable report in the judiciary, House Bill 353, Public Safety, Handgun Permit Requirements Repeal. Essentially, this would repeal the permit process in Maryland and allow for constitutional carry, dead in the water.
Wonderful bill. It got an unfavorable report in the Judiciary Committee. 14 people, all Democrats, voted against the bill. 8 voted in favor. So with the unfavorable report, Maryland's Constitutional Carry Act of 2025 is dead. We hope to see it again in 2026.
All right. So next we'll move on to House Bill 1158, Civil Actions Against Firearms Industry Members, Private Right of Action. There's no cross-file on this, and on 3/3 of 25, it was withdrawn by the sponsor. For those of you that remember last session, the Firearm Industry Member Accountability Act of 2024, allowing for governmental entities like attorneys general to be able to file suit against, quote, firearms industry members, gun dealers, manufacturers, things like that. This would allow then, or would have then allowed individuals to bring suit against these companies. Andrew.
This bill, because it was withdrawn by the sponsor, thankfully, is also no more. Once again, you'll be hearing about the mischief they're causing with the lawsuit against Glock by our Maryland Attorney General, and this would have expanded the right for any private citizen to bring this type of suit. Thankfully, it is done.
All right. House Bill 937, sales and use tax, firearms, firearms accessories, and ammunition. No cross-file on this, 312 of 25, withdrawn by sponsor. This effectively would have increased the sales tax, sales and use tax rate for firearms, firearms accessories, and ammunition from 6% to 12%. Andrew.
So that bill is dead. And also, thankfully, House Bill 387, the Comprehensive Community Safety Funding Act, not to be confused with the prior bill. This one would put the excise tax on gross receipts of certain firearm dealers derived from the sales of firearms in the state and residents of the state. Similar to the last one, that one has not crossed over and is likely dead.
All right, but certainly something we'll likely see again.
As Maryland continues to be squeezed in the purse, absolutely, we're an unpopular group, and the legislature loves to pick on us.
All right, so some other things to be mindful of. These are going to be bills that are, in fact, advancing. Some will have less effect on most of our viewers. Others may. Vinnie, would you like to go through the House bills?
I thought you'd never ask. Here are the House bills that are advancing. House Bill 413, Criminal Law, Controlled Dangerous Substances and Firearms, cross-filed as Senate Bill 0925, establishes that a person who is at least a certain age can manufacture a personal use amount of cannabis product for personal use or adult sharing at a private residence if the manufacturing process does not involve the use of a volatile solvent, etc., etc.
We're back to the volatile solvents. This, once again, we'll be talking about disparities between regular cocaine and crack cocaine and its sentencing implications. I look forward, Duane, want to take about 20, 30 minutes talking about this?
Yeah, let's not do that this time. We'll discuss it when this bill comes back as Maryland's Meth Lab Protection Act of 2026.
I can't wait to have some guests in studio.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a fun time. So, okay, Vinnie.
All right, moving on. House Bill 0592, Prohibited Possession of Firearms, Assisted Outpatient Treatment Respondents, cross-filed as Senate Bill 0509, for the purpose of prohibiting a person from possessing a regulated firearm, rifle, or shotgun if the person is currently a respondent subject to a court order related to a certain assisted outpatient treatment.
So basically dealing with individuals that have court-ordered outpatient mental health type care. Andrew?
I think this is going to pass constitutional muster, but I expect this bill, if it is enacted, to be litigated in the courts, and I would not like to represent a trial plaintiff in this.
Does this include anger management? Could that fall under that bill?
Only if it's gotten so bad that you're in an outpatient treatment facility.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm sure such a thing exists.
A lot of these individuals are going to already be on probation. And a condition of your probation, a standard condition, is you cannot have any weapons whatsoever. And then also factor in, if they're on probation, what is the offense they're on probation for? And if it carries, which most crimes in Maryland do, a disqualifying amount of jail time, even if it's not, imposed, you're probably a prohibited person already.
Could the courts not order someone to go to outpatient mental health care without there being an underlying criminal case?
No.
Okay. So under an ERPO or something like that?
That would
fall under the ERPO.
Well, but under an ERPO, you're not going outpatient.
That's true.
You're going to be inpatient.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, an ERPO, this is not an ERPO. And for anyone who doesn't know what an ERPO is, what is an ERPO?
Extreme Risk Protective Order.
Now, this is going to be someone who is under some sort of emergency petition, maybe. Not necessarily an ERPO, but just that.
A regular emergency petition certified by either a law enforcement officer, a doctor, or now you can
a
get
judge.
It as a judge.
Yeah, a judge could always do it. So someone who is so dangerous to themselves, they're being committed to a mental institution, and instead of being committed to an inpatient mental institution, they're committed to an outpatient institution.
Does that mean you just like stop by for an hour?
Yeah, and talk
good to
about your
go.
feelings.
So you're saying there's a chance. Moving right along.
Senate bills that are advancing. So we have first up, Senate Bill 0180, Public Safety Handgun Permits Expiration and Renewal, cross-filed as House Bill 171, establishing alternative expiration and renewal periods of 5 years for a handgun permit issued to a certain retired law enforcement officers.
So this received a lot of smoke in the comments. It would have allowed certain retired law enforcement officers to have permits that expired in longer periods or were valid in longer periods rather than average citizens. And it is advancing, but again, it did not. They tried to add on 5 years for everyone, and that did not get amended. Andrew,
Keep trying. Next year, we're going to have an election. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying.
I mean, it's the retired law enforcement officers, most of them that I know, they're covered under LEOSA anyway, which they do annually.
Right. Well, they have LEOSA, but some would apply for permits. But I think the one good thing, many good things, but one of the good things here would have been is if they could have gotten it amended, and it would have affected everyone equally.
Because what is it, 2 or 3 years we have now?
It expires on the last day of your birth month following 2 years from the issuance of the permit on an initial, and then 3 years after that. All right, next one.
Senate Bill 0443, Trafficking Regulated Firearms Felony Classification, no cross-file, reclassifying the prohibition against transporting a regulated firearm into the state for the purpose of unlawfully selling or trafficking the firearm to a felony, and generally relating to trafficking regulated firearms.
Okay, Andrew.
This is an issue in certain parts of the state where individuals, I'm sure we've all seen the commercials about Stop the Iron Pipeline, are bringing firearms into the state and selling them not through the proper channels. And this is going to increase it from a misdemeanor to a felony. And I'm certain I'm going to have lots of clients that are accused of doing so. I do find the commercials annoying, though.
Moving right along, Senate Bill 444, Public Safety Gun Buyback Programs, Destruction of Firearms, no cross-file, requiring a person or an entity operating a gun buyback program to destroy all firearms, including all components and parts, as to make them permanently inoperable and unrepairable.
So essentially requiring if an entity, governmental or otherwise, does some sort of gun buyback program, they can't go back and like resell the guns or the accessories, that they would have to be destroyed and beyond repair.
So basically we would need to do it like what Hillary did with her cell phones with bleaches and hammers.
Yes, that would suffice, apparently.
Okay.
And I thought we were supposed to be recycling and saving the planet. But what do I know?
Next month when we have Anthony Brown on the program, we'll ask him. Well, I'm going to fire a shot at the Archdiocese of Baltimore real quick, because in the bulletins that you'll find if you're happen to go to any of the churches in the Archdiocese of Baltimore, they were sponsoring a gun buyback. And I'm just curious how that went and what they did with the guns that they bought back and why they never returned my calls when I called to complain about it.
Maybe they blessed them and returned them to the street.
I mean, that's what I would have done, but I mean,
Well, we're going to have the Archbishop in. Same episode as Attorney General Brown. We will ask him. We'll ask him about where the money for this came, how successful it was, and Duane, how many guns did you get rid of at the buyback?
I got rid of all of them. They were all lost in a tragic boating incident. Moving right along.
Senate Bill 449. This one's going to be covering bow hunting, openly carrying handguns, cross-filed as House Bill 511. Allowing licensed bow hunters to openly carry a handgun under certain circumstances in Frederick County and Washington County during deer hunting season when bow hunting.
We all remember when we had the good delegate on the program and we discussed, why is this bill controversial? And unfortunately, it did not pass in years past, but this may finally be our year.
It's relatively harmless in the sense that it's just simply allowing bow hunters the ability to have a sidearm in case something attacks them and they're not able to use their bow to defend themselves.
Like a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if
bearing arms.
what if Andrew hops out of the bushes on you?
Well, we get attacked by a jackalope.
Yeah. Wearing nothing but an orange vest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as the law stands now, they would not be able to defend themselves against
Yeah.
you.
I got till October 1st. I'm going to be out there.
So pay attention, Frederick and
Bow
Washington
hunters
County.
beware.
All right, moving right along.
All right. Moving right along. Next, we have Senate Bill 585, Criminal Law Exception to Armed Trespass Prohibition. Retired law enforcement, cross-filed as House Bill 308, establishing an exception to the prohibition against entering or trespassing on real property while wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm for retired law enforcement officials under certain circumstances.
So this one resolves the issue of from Senate Bill 1 dealing with private residential property. It basically exempts retired law enforcement from that portion. Am I right on that, Andrew?
Yes, that they could carry concealed into another person's home without first obtaining their permission as required by Senate Bill 1. I hope all our viewers have been very diligently asking their friends if they can come over and bring their firearms with them. Well, this would create a second class of persons, retired law enforcement officers, who wouldn't have to be constantly harassing you to let you know they're bringing a firearm over and getting your assent.
You know, with that said, and I know we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but what is some guidance that you have for individuals that are going to be carrying on someone's private residential property that are affected by that prohibition as far as getting permission and in a legally sufficient way?
Concealed means concealed, number one. Number two, I'm yet to have someone who's charged with violating this prohibition, but I am certain the first case I have where it happens, it's either going to be someone who was a known anti-gunner, anti-Second Amendment person, and the permit holder still went there for some social event or something like that, and it comes out. Or option B, I hope this is not the case, some sort of tragedy will occur, maybe even a lawful discharge, but then the homeowner is going to pitch a fit and call the police, and that's going to be what the hero is going to be arrested for.
And you know, here's another thing, and that's a great example, but another example is, what about like a contractor, somebody that enters into somebody's home that's armed, and maybe they spoke over the phone and they got this verbal permission, and then something happens and the person says, I never gave him permission.
As we always say, the oral contract is worth the paper it is written on.
And I only do business with armed contractors. So, but a valid discussion point, because I think a lot of people don't know that this is in effect. And how likely are you to be charged? I don't know, but I don't want to be the landmark case either.
Absolutely not. And as I alluded to, God forbid if you're the hero, something terrible happens and you stop an aggressor.
Save the day.
Yeah, save the day. And then, but the homeowner, even not intending for you to get in trouble, if the police ask, did you give them permission to be here with that firearm? Not knowing any better. No, I didn't know they had it on them. I invite you two over to my Mount Washington Manor.
Do you have one of the Urban Defense lawful concealed carry signs allowed on the premises signs on your door?
I do not.
Well, we'll have to get that resolved.
Yes. At the same
for a nominal fee.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud that we have finally put to rest the allegations that Mr. Noto cannot read. Thank you for all of that, Vinnie. Some of the commenters had questioned your literacy.
I'm happy to apply my 8th grade education to read these bills for you guys.
A true success story of America.
Yes.
Public education at its finest.
Yes.
We should rename the Department of Education after you, Mr. Noto.
There will no longer be a Department of Education, a federal Department of Education. It's being rescinded as we speak.
Well, until it is gone and abolished to the ash can of history.
Yeah.
The Noto Department of Education.
Yeah.
And School of Literacy.
All right. So obviously we did better this session than previous, but any anti-gun bill is unacceptable. Any anti-Second Amendment bill is unacceptable. Constantly, we got to be wary of what is looming around the corner. Andrew, any thoughts on that?
This year, the main focus remains the budget gap, and how they're going to fund things. You saw they had some tax bills aimed at the Second Amendment here. They were unsuccessful. The budget deficit is going to continue and allegedly only get worse next year, so expect these to return. We'll have another legislative session next year, but also remember next year is an election year. The governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller, every member of the state Senate and state house is up for election. Do your part, register to vote, caucus with your friends, caucus with your neighbors, get them out to vote, and let's do our part.
I don't even know what caucus means.
I believe that's Greek from the mountains of Caucasus.
I can tell neither one of these gentlemen live in a manor in Mount Washington.
Nope.
Not yet. Soon enough. All right. So thank you for watching today's episode. Please remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. Remember, knowledge is mental ammunition, and train, fight, and win.